The doors of your car will close automatically. Please keep your head and arms inside and remain seated at all times. And please, no smoking. Thank you.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Hey there, Mountaineers. Welcome to episode 14 of Matterhorn Mondays. I'm Matterhorn Matt, and this week my guest is Alex, a historian. Say hi, Alex.
Hello, everybody.
And he has his own YouTube channel, so for the new viewers listening, why don't you go ahead and explain what kind of videos you make?
Sure. Well, I have three kinds of videos for my channel. One of them is a lecture series that I go through each ride and talk about its history all the way up until today. My other show is a vlog series where I go into the park and I discuss objects and items and places of historical interest. And then finally, I have a third show where I talk about my thoughts on projects and things happening around the resort.
Yeah, guys, I say this every week. You should all definitely go out and check out his channel because he makes really amazing videos if you're into Disney history and stuff, which I don't know why you wouldn't be because you're listening to this podcast. So definitely go out and check out his channel and give him a subscribe. And this week's topics are Star Tours, the latest Star Tours changes, which we forgot to mention last week. We're going to talk about must-do things at Disneyland, and I couldn't think of a better way to word this topic. I got it off Mice Chat. Let's see. What was it that made you start to feel not so great about Disney as you used to? And I'm sure some of you guys can kind of get the idea of what that's about from the title, but for those of you that couldn't, I'm really sorry. I couldn't find a way to word it better, but let's see. Let's get into our first topic, which is the recent Star Tours changes. I believe it was two weeks ago, I think, that Disney announced that they were kind of mixing around the scenes in Star Tours, and I, for one, am really for these changes. For those of you that don't know, I believe they're, I guess, kind of separating the old trilogies from the new trilogies. So let's say if you start off your Star Tours experience with Darth Vader at the beginning, you're only going to get original trilogy and prequel trilogy scenes, and now they added a new scene with Kylo Ren, and you're only going to get scenes from the new trilogy, which I think is really fantastic and fixes one of the problems that Alex and I had with the ride from the beginning. So why don't you go ahead and explain how you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I had been saying for a while that I was just so angry with the fact that they were just mixing the new trilogy with the old trilogy, because then the storyline of where Star Tours is, like the timeline is all messed up. Mm-hmm. So, hearing that they've kind of separated the two trilogies is really a good step forward, I think. I'm very happy to hear about that, because really it was just something that irked me the whole time. Like, I just it just didn't make sense to see Darth Vader and then all of a sudden be like on what's that other planet? The desert planet with all the...
Oh, yeah. I can't... For some reason, I can't recall the name right off the...
Starts with a K.
Oh, boy. I can't... I'm totally
anyway,
blanking, but...
And then you see, and then you see the one of the characters from the movie, I forget his name, Flynn or something like that. In any case, I'm blanking in my head right now. I don't remember. But, anyway, I'm just really glad that they've separated the two trilogies. That seems like a good step forward, and will help make the whole ride seem to make more sense.
Yeah, and actually one thing I forgot to mention right at the beginning was that the ending scene for Star Tours has you land on, I guess, what is the planet that is Star Wars that is basically Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and the name of the planet, I'm not going to pronounce this right, I know it. Batu, Battuu, and you Star Wars historians can go ahead and correct me down in the comments of how I pronounce that, but yeah, so you basically end on the planet that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is set on, and I find that really, really interesting. I mean, of course I'm hyped, to see what the land is going to eventually look like when it opens, because that's basically like a sneak preview. They're building up hype for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it'd be better if Star Tours was actually in the land, so you enter the ride from outside of Galaxy's Edge, and then you end the ride, leaving the queue, and you're inside Galaxy's Edge. And I don't know, I just feel like it'd make more sense, because you finish the ride with the last scene on the planet, and but then you pop out in Tomorrowland, and I feel like that's kind of, I mean, I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of weird.
That's true. It does seem kind of strange that you end in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and then, you come out of the ride and you're in Tomorrowland. But like you said, I think they're just trying to build hype, and but I mean, some people think that having the ride end at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, that it's some kind of hint that they're going to move Star Tours into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, it'd be cool if they did move the ride into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I mean, we've been talking about this for like a long time now as to whether or not Star Tours will live on after they open Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Will it be there or will it be gone? So I don't know. It's yeah.
Yeah, we brought this up in previous episodes about whether Star Tours will move to Galaxy's Edge, or whether it will stay in Tomorrowland, or whether it will just go away completely. And I don't think it will be moving to Galaxy's Edge. If anything, it'll be moving to the trash can, because not that Star Tours is a bad ride or anything. I mean, it's one of my favorites to do in Tomorrowland, but I just don't think Star Tours really has a future after Galaxy's Edge opens. And like I brought up in previous episodes, if they did manage to move it to Star Wars Land, it would just, at least for me, it would feel outdated with the newer Millennium Falcon simulator ride just a couple feet away, or I guess not feet, a couple yards away from it, and then Star Tours is in the corner with its old technology, and yeah, I just don't really see a future of Star Tours in Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, I agree. It just, I don't think that it will live on. I think they're really, what they're going to do is just close Star Tours and then probably reuse the simulators for another attraction.
Hopefully, Adventure Through Inner Space kind of revive, I don't know, like a new ride kind of loosely based on it. I don't know. I brought up my idea for a new Adventure Through Inner Space ride a couple episodes back. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, is to have some kind of revival of Adventure Through Inner Space, but using the simulators, That'd be really cool. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? I wasn't around for when Adventure Through Inner Space was open, but I've heard it's a really great attraction, and I did a whole episode of Historyland on it, and I think it recently passed 1,000 views, so thank you guys for watching my videos. And also, I forgot to mention, thank you guys for 600 subscribers. I passed 600 a couple days ago, but yeah, it's really crazy to think that 600 of you like my videos, and just trying to imagine 600 people in like a room with me, that's a lot of people. And yeah, oh my gosh, I also forgot to mention, happy late Thanksgiving, guys, for those of you that celebrate. I hope you all had a great Thursday and ate a lot of turkey and mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. And I know I definitely did, but yeah, that's just, I forgot to mention that right at the beginning. But and let's see, I kind of want to spring sort of surprise topic. It's not really a surprise, but I had this idea a couple months back, and it goes, what if Disney and Pixar were to, I don't really know how to word this, but what if they were to, I guess, not really remake their old movies, but kind of bring, like, let's say the first Toy Story, they were to sort of bring, like, use the newer animation softwares and everything to make Toy Story 1 look, I don't want to say better, because Toy Story 1 looks, decent, but what if they were to, I guess, kind of re-render each of their older Pixar movies to, I guess, bring it up to the animation standards that we have today? And I don't know, that's just something I've had on my mind for a while, and I wanted to see, or I guess discuss how Disney fans would react to that, because it'd be basically just not really remaking the entire movie, just the animation for it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
I don't know. I would like them to just leave it alone. Like when I look back on the old Toy Story movie, I look back on it and I go, wow, look at how, the animation was back then, and then I compare it to now, and that's what I like about it, is seeing the old animation. I wouldn't want them to update the animation.
Okay, yeah, definitely, because I'd feel the same way. I wouldn't want them to, basically redo the entire movie just to make it look prettier. But I don't know, it was just kind of an interesting thought that I had, and whether or not Disney would be willing to do that, because you see almost the same thing with the live action remakes of the classic Disney movies they've done with Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, and I don't know. It's just something I had on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why some people would probably like to see that, just make it look better. But, in my opinion, I don't know. I like to see how the animation used to look,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely, guys, comment down below your ideas or thoughts on that, because I think it's a really interesting topic to I guess think about. But moving on from that, let's get into our second topic, which is must-do things at Disneyland. And we kind of talked about this last week. We did little-known things to do at Disneyland, but this week we're talking must-do things that everybody in the family has to do on their trip to Disneyland. And I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to you so you can start us off.
Okay. Okay. So my number one thing, and this is just because I'm such a railroad fan, but I would say ride the Disneyland Railroad all the way around. A full Grand Circle tour. That is just the, one of the staples of a Disneyland visit is to ride the railroad all the way around. So I would say that, as well as ride one of the Main Street vehicles. Like, there's a fire truck, there's a few other four-cylinder cars, there's also a omnibus and a horse-drawn streetcar. So ride any one of those at least. It's just so fun just to go down Main Street in one of those vehicles. Let me think. There's also the classic must-do rides, like Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion. But let me think. I think definitely a ride aboard the Mark Twain Riverboat or the sailing ship Columbia is definitely one of those things that you should do. And then if you have kids, I would say Tom Sawyer's Island.
Or if you don't have kids, because it's fun for the whole family.
It is, yeah. I don't know. What are some ideas that you have?
Let's see. Definitely, I'd agree with you on the railroad. The railroad should be the first thing you do when you get to the park. I mean, it's right there, dead center in front of you when you enter Disneyland, and you should just be automatically running towards the station to hop onto one of the cars there. And I don't know, it's just a really magical experience. I mean, how often do you get to ride on an actual railroad, and let alone in Disneyland? I mean, it's one of Walt's favorite rides, I'm sure. Let's see. For me, oh boy, I had something. Okay. For me, I don't know if most families have the time for this, but I'd recommend camping out as early as you can to get front row seats for the fireworks show. And that's something we did on our very last day in Disneyland. We camped out for, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 hours, right in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle, or at least as close as they'd let us get. But we camped out. We saw the Main Street electrical parade pass right by us, and the fireworks show is a really amazing sight to be seen right up close. And unlike in Walt Disney World, you're not really supposed to watch the fireworks from right in front of the castle, because the fireworks happen all around you. It'd be better to be farther back into the hub. But in Disneyland, it's really a great spot to be dead center in front of the castle, or at least around the hub area. And I feel like that's what a lot of families really miss out on, because they go out back into Main Street, and they don't really have great views of the projections and the fireworks. A lot of people are around you, and when you're right in front, no one is around you, and you can it's like a full 360 experience of just magic. And it's really hard to put into words, but I'd really recommend waiting however long it takes to get those front row seats for the fireworks.
I was just thinking right now about also Fantasmic. That's another one of those shows you have to see. I mean, Fantasmic is just so wonderful. I mean, it's hard to describe for someone who hasn't seen it yet, but it is an amazing experience. And even the new Fantasmic is really great. So that's another recommended one. I'm also thinking... let's see. Sorry. Yawned. I'm also thinking... It's a Small World.
Oh, yes.
Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, the music or something. But honestly, if you can get over that, it's a really great ride. Mm-hmm. It's a classic Disney attraction. It's one of those things that you just have to see when you go to Disneyland.
Yeah, piggybacking off Fantasmic. Fantasmic, like Alex said, is... I don't want to say it's the pinnacle of Disney pyrotechnic and all that kind of stuff. It's really one of the best live shows Disney has ever made, and the newer version of Fantasmic is still really amazing too. I listen to the soundtrack of Fantasmic almost every week, because it just makes me so happy, brings tears to my eyes. I can picture everything that's going on when I listen to the music, and I know it might seem intimidating to wait however long it might take to get those decent seats. You might have to get a fast pass, but I don't think the fast pass spots are as good as just camping out in front, but it really, I don't know. It really depends on how many days you're in the park, how many family members you have, because if you're only in the parks for let's say 2 days, you wouldn't want to waste a good 4 hours of valuable time just waiting for a show to start. I know definitely a lot of people wouldn't do that, but if you're in the parks for, I guess, maybe 5 days, it'd be definitely worth camping out. And even if you're in the parks for, like I said, 2 days, finding a decent spot on the edge is still an amazing experience, because you still get to watch it. You get to see Mickey Mouse. You get to see all the projections, because I believe they have 3 projection, I guess, quote, screens around the Rivers of America. So there really is no, quote, bad angle for the projections, but it really does make it 100 times better if you're at least close to the center of Tom Sawyer's Island. You get to just look right across and see everything around you. It's just really, really an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And oh boy, for me it'd be oh gosh. Oh, I'd say, I don't know, a lot of families wouldn't be really keen on doing this, but I'd say to just have one day to just sit around the parks and just not really do anything, just sit in the bench and just watch the people and watch, I don't know, just to observe what's going on around you, because you get to see a lot of interesting stuff. I know one of my favorite spots to sit is above, oh my gosh, the train station in Main Street. There's little benches that you can sit on up there, and there's a really great view of just the entire Main Street. You look straight down, you can see Sleeping Beauty's castle, and sometimes you can even see the characters walking around, interacting with the guests, and sometimes even interacting with other characters too. And it's just, I don't know, I'm one of those people that likes to watch character interactions with other people, just seeing the look on their faces, the happiness that meeting Pluto brings to somebody, it just really makes my entire visit. And yeah, that's really what it's all about for me, just seeing other people be this happy about being in the happiest place on earth.
Right, people watching is one of the best things to do at Disneyland, and y- during your visit, you'll come to a point where you need to sit down and you need to relax, and just take in the scenery, and that's the best time to people watch. Go grab like a little bucket of popcorn and start munching on that as you watch people having fun at the park, because it's really great just to sit back and soak in everything. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people skip that thing and then they just go from ride to ride, but there is something very important about just soaking it all in.
Yeah, Disneyland by far is not about how many rides you can get on, how many times you can get on Space Mountain, how many times you can get on Splash Mountain. It's about the experience as a whole, bringing in, seeing all this magic just happen around you. It's really a wonderful, really amazing thing to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And let's
Yeah,
see. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the amazing things about the experience at Disneyland is definitely one of my favorites is the architecture of
Oh,
the
yes.
park. Just looking at where you are in each land. If you're in Adventureland, just seeing the way the buildings are made, and if you're in Frontierland, seeing the old Western buildings. If you're on Main Street, seeing the turn of the century buildings. There's so much detail, so much stuff that a lot of parks can't afford to put into their architecture. And Disneyland has it all. It's just so beautiful to look at. And especially during Christmas time, like right now, Main Street looks so beautiful with the garland everywhere. It's one of those things that you should do if you're sitting down and people watching, is also to really appreciate the surroundings and the architecture around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's little details in the architecture and the buildings around you that you can miss the first time you visit and then notice the second time, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was there. And then same thing with third, fourth, even fifth visits. You always find something new to point out, and it's just really, man, I don't know, there's no real words to explain it. It's just an amazing thing to experience. And let's see, Alex, did you have any other must-do things at Disneyland you wanted to mention?
Um, I can't think of it.
Okay, let's see. I think I have maybe one or two more. I don't know why I didn't bring this one up first, but this should be in the top five of any of any visit that you go to. Meeting the characters is a really, man, I talked about it earlier. Meeting characters at Disneyland is, there's no other word to describe it. It's just magical, because you get to see Mickey Mouse, you get to shake his hand, you get to take a picture with him, and you get his autograph. You get Mickey Mouse's autograph. How awesome is that. I mean, you can get Minnie's autograph too. You can get basically any character that you can think of, minus a few. But meeting your favorite character at Disneyland oh my gosh, there's no words to explain it. It's just magical. And if you have kids, seeing their faces when they meet Mickey Mouse or any of their other favorite characters, that's another... Oh, I talked about this just a couple seconds ago, but seeing just the happiness that the characters bring to children's faces, it's just really part of the experience, seeing, like I said, people watching. You're sitting there in Fantasyland, you see a kid find Belle and the Beast and their favorite characters, and they're just asking for an autograph, and Belle signs their autograph, takes a picture. It's just an amazing thing to experience. And I don't really know many families who skip out on meeting the characters, but I'm sure there's a few out there. And to those families who skip out on meeting the characters, you're missing out on a whole lot.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned a really good one, is visiting the characters. I mean, it's a really magical experience. I know people that skip on it, and the kids would have really loved to do it. I mean, but if you have a chance, visit with one of the characters. It's a really great experience because the characters, they're not, people in a suit. It's really, it's like being with the actual character, because they're so animated and they're so happy, and they act just like the character. So it's one of those things where it's like actually being with your favorite character. So, I know for one thing, Mickey is my favorite character, and meeting with Mickey is just one of the greatest things ever. It's just like, I don't know, I always get so excited, and I always I go, oh my gosh, it's Mickey Mouse, So that's definitely, yeah, I would agree. That's one of the things you should definitely do when you visit the park.
And like we mentioned last week, the character interactions between the characters at Disneyland is also a really awesome thing if you're able to witness it, because like I mentioned last week, a lot of the characters like to roam around and kind of mingle with the other characters, and sometimes they do really funny stuff. Like I mentioned last week, I think I mentioned this last week. I saw Alice in Wonderland and the Mad Hatter and Merida from Brave playing Duck Duck Goose with all these children just sitting in a circle, and they were all having the time of their lives, and it's just amazing. It's really, I don't know, I said this before, there's no other word to explain it. It's just magical. And let's see, if Alex doesn't have anything else to mention, I'd like to move on to our third and final topic, which is the topic I couldn't shorten the name to, but it's what was it that made you start to feel not so great about Disney as you used to? And hopefully I'll find a way to shorten that in the title of this episode, but this topic is kind of self-explanatory. I'll go ahead and start off with you, Alex.
Oh, okay. Okay, right into it, right? Okay, well, let's see. For one thing, Disney has definitely overpriced a lot of things. I feel like one of the things that really changed Disney was, like, for instance, I used to love to get churros at Disneyland. And the way that they used to do it was they would make a churro dough, and then they'd put it through an extruding machine, which extruded the whole churro, and then it landed directly into a fryer, and then from out of the fryer they would put it in the cinnamon sugar, and then you got it, and it was $1.25. Okay, and it was an amazing experience to watch them make the churros. But for the sake of making things more efficient and for making more profit off of it, now all they do is they toast pre-manufactured churros, and you get that for $4.75. It's one of those things that made me really mad, because it's like that was part of the experience at Disneyland, was seeing them make your churro, and now it's just, oh, you're just eating a reheated churro that you've spent like 4 times as much money as it's really worth. Because in my opinion, the churros are still only worth $1.25, but they've overpriced it to $4.25. So I would say the overpricing of things in order to make more money off of it is one of the first things that really stuck in my mind, about how it's changed. And I mean, I was talking to a cast member the other day. He used to make food for the Mint Julep Bar, which is over in New Orleans Square next to French Market. And the Mint Julep Bar was originally famous for not only its mint juleps, but its beignets and its fritters. And I don't think they sell the fritters anymore. But the fritters were made from apple and stuff like that, and they were really good, and they were fried right in front of you, and then you got it nice and fresh and hot. And then that changed to buying pre-made fritters, and then now they don't even sell the fritters anymore, I don't think. But that's just it's one of those things that Disney has lessened the experience for the sake of making more money. So yeah, that's one of the first things I'll mention today. What about you?
Yeah, and I mean, the price is really one of the top things that I'm sure pops into a lot of people's minds, mine included, because not just the prices for food, because, okay, I'm pretty sure a bucket of popcorn is around $10, and I can get bags of popcorn, like a box of, let's say, 20 bags of microwave popcorn that's arguably just as good, if not better, depending on which kind of brand you buy. And that box of, let's say, 20 bags of microwave popcorn could cost maybe $5, $6, I don't know. I'm just guessing on that price, but yeah, the prices have definitely gone up a lot in my lifetime, especially the admission price. And this kind of brings up another topic that Disney announced a couple, I think it was last week, which was that they're not selling SoCal passes anymore. And we can definitely probably talk about that later or in a future episode. But yeah, the prices, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, like, it is what it is. If you want to go to Disneyland, you're going to have to pay that price. There really is no way around it. And for families who don't want to pay all that money for, like, food and snacks, I mean, you can always, I guess, like, bring your own food, but that's kind of a hassle, Do they? I think they allow like small little like coolers in the park that you can put, I guess, like sandwiches in. I don't know. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, price is definitely on the top of the list for this topic. And for me, I want to say it really doesn't really have much to do with actually, yeah, it does have a lot to do with Disneyland. The fact that they're shoving in all these IPs wherever they see fit, or wherever they think they see fit, into Disneyland and California Adventure. I don't know how many times we've talked about this. Pixar Pier, Marvel Land, anything else that you can think of that is really just lazily themed together over a single IP is just really, I don't know, for me it like takes away from the experience. I mean, Pixar Pier, who wants to go to a Pixar Pier? I'm not gonna rant on this again, because we already did in a couple episodes back. But yeah, the IP shoving down our throats is just really something that really gets to me when it comes to this.
Yeah, I would agree. There's the fact that Disney is really trying to I think we were talking about in a previous episode that Disney no longer really makes rides at Disneyland or Walt Disney World that don't have an IP. Everything is based off of, movies and stuff like that. And so there's no creativity flowing. It's all just remaking a movie into a ride. So that's another one of those things that is just like, they're just trying to do what everybody expects. And the problem is that the customers, not the customers, the guests don't really realize what Disney is capable of. So that therefore they don't know that Disney can do a lot better than making a, like a Ratatouille ride, or making like a, I mean, not that Ratatouille isn't a good ride. It's just that there's a lot of creativity that can happen without using a current IP movie or something like that. They could do something that is totally original and totally Disney-like, but once again, the average guest doesn't realize what they could do. And so therefore, the average guest only thinks in their head, oh, well, what Disney really needs is another ride based off of a movie. So it's just one of those cycles, because Disney does what the customers want, and I mean what the guests want, and what the guests want, the guests don't realize what Disney can do. So it's one of those cycles that just keeps going over and over again.
Oh, yeah. That's, I don't want to say sad, but that's just one of the things the normal guests, everyday Joes who think about Disneyland and their Disney movies, I don't know, I hear a lot of people say, when someone brings up a Disney movie, I hear a lot of people say, oh, they should make a ride on that. And I'm like, I don't know, it just kind of baffles me. I mean, of course they could make a ride on it if it's creative, innovative, and I guess original, but I mean, what are the chances that it's going to be any of those three? I mean, yeah. It's really, the average guest really doesn't care, I guess, what kind of rides, that Disneyland has, as long as the whole family can have fun on them, as long as their kids can be entertained for that 3 minutes of ride time, I don't think they really care as much,
Yeah, that's true. Now, as for other things that I feel has changed with Disney, or what's the name of the topic again? It's like this long name.
What was it that made you start to feel not so great about Disney as you used to?
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to speak about it as from a cast member perspective.
Yeah, no problem.
As a cast member, it was always great to go to cast member holiday family days at Disney. I forget what they were called, but it was special days that were allotted out of the Christmas time, so that way cast members could go into the park with their families. This was a tradition started by Walt Disney himself in order to make cast members feel more like they were part of a family and reward cast members for being with the company. And so they used to allot certain nights out of the year, and you could go with your families, and the park was filled with only cast members and their families. And it was a really great experience. But then Disney, they changed it to mix-ins is what they called them. So basically, instead of the park being open only to cast members and their families, it was a mix-in. So there would be regular guests plus cast members and their families. And that didn't feel as good because the park was even busier than normal, and you didn't get to go on a lot of rides because of all the regular day guests that were still there. And then it just didn't feel special because it was one of those things that, the park was only open for you guys. And now it's like, oh, now we're just, in with the regular guests. It doesn't feel that special. And then Disney decided to get rid of it altogether. They no longer do cast member holiday parties. And it's one of those really sad things that it was a tradition started by Walt Disney and they no longer do it. And that was one of the things that started to change my mind about who Disney was as a company. Like, you know, it really started with this movement that happened in Florida called One Disney. And basically it was like, oh, well, whatever happens to the company on the East Coast should be the same on the West Coast.
Oh yeah.
And on the East Coast they didn't have a lot of those holiday parties. They didn't have a lot of things that cast members could do that were just completely cast member only. And so therefore they went, well, why should Disneyland Park have, all these celebrations and things for their cast members if we don't have it? So they should just not have it at all. And that's what happened. And it was really depressing because I was working as a cast member all through those years where Disney suddenly changed from being this, family friendly cast member company to suddenly just, we're just a company and we don't need to reward you with anything. And that was really sad. That was really sad.
Yeah, I can't really relate to this story a lot, but I'm just gonna bring up that I really don't think Disney World and Disneyland should be considered, I guess, like, quote, one in the same. I feel like those two parks should be, I guess, like, separated somehow. I don't want, like, when it comes to copying rides over from Disney World to Disneyland and vice versa, and this goes for all the parks worldwide, however many Disney parks there are. I feel like each park should have its own personality, and not really, I guess, I don't know how to word this, but I just feel like each park should be not really separate from one another, but they should just be contained in their own, I guess, little bubble. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I think you mean managed differently.
yeah. That's what I mean. I'm the worst when it comes to trying to verbalize my thoughts, but yes.
Yeah,
Oh no, go ahead.
It's just it's sad because I remember the company when I first started out at Disney it felt so very different. It felt like you were part of like this family, and as the years went by, it was kind of like, oh, it's more of a company, and a lot of the things that they used to offer you, they no longer offer you. Like, I remember when we would have like they would order extra like turkey legs, for instance, for like Christmas time or an event. And then what would happen is, because they purposely ordered extra turkey legs, they would start handing them out to cast members, so you could just have them. You could take them home. I remember one year I had a turkey leg in each pocket, and I walked out of the park with it. But that's one of those things that they don't do anymore, because they go, oh, well, look at how much that cost us, buying all those extra turkey legs just to hand out to cast members. And so they no longer do that too. They used to also do little ice cream parties, or another thing was when I worked at Golden Horseshoe, our little restaurant zone, which was called Riverfront Restaurants, which included Stage Door Cafe, Golden Horseshoe, Riverbell Terrace, and Bengal Barbecue. Anybody who worked in those 4 restaurants, they got to celebrate a special Halloween party. So like we would throw this big Halloween party in the Golden Horseshoe. I remember changing out all the light bulbs in Golden Horseshoe with like green and purple light bulbs. Because it was, we wanted the lighting to be like kind of spooky and stuff. And, and then we had this big party, and it was hosted by Disney. There was that. And then there was an even better party. We had what we called a black and white party. And that was held at Blue Bayou. And our chefs that worked at our riverfront restaurants, they made like a full course meal for all of us, and it was
Oh,
this
okay.
big Christmas party that we used to love to go to. And I remember one year the chefs made this huge container of creme brulee, and we all got sick because we all ate so much creme brulee. Anyway, that's another one of those things that they no longer host the black and white party because that involves closing down Blue Bayou or any other restaurant to host it at. And of course, it costs the company money because they're cooking food that belongs to the company. So that's another thing that they don't do anymore. And it just, I don't mean to depress everybody, but that's what came to my mind when you talked about, things that don't feel quite, the same anymore. And that's one of those things, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of your whole topic. Another thing that really comes to mind, not really for the average guest, but cast member appreciation. And I know a lot of cast members out there who are really, not really unhappy, but just kind of meh about the whole working at Disney experience. And I know it's because they're not, being appreciated as they should. I've said this 1,000 times before. Cast members are really one of the, I don't want to say nicest, but they're just really amazing people that really have to, put on a smile every day to be happy because that's what the company says should happen. And even though some of them might be like, they might be having the worst day ever, but they could be the nicest to you, even though, you accidentally, I don't know, spilled your ice cream on them. I don't know. That's not really a great scenario, but yeah, cast member appreciation is really, I don't know. It's just something. It should be at least one of Disney's number one priorities when it comes to running the parks, because, like I said, they're really unappreciated. Unappreciated. I think that's the word. Unappreciative. Yes. No, yeah, unappreciated. That's the one. You guys get what I mean.
Yeah, you're totally right. The cast members that work at Disney, they definitely don't feel appreciated, and the company doesn't show its appreciation to them very much. Like, if anything, the most that they'll get is sometimes the company will pass out free like ice cream to them, like ice cream bars. But that's like rare, and that doesn't happen very much. And it's just like the times that the company does show appreciation is really more about making money, because what happens is like they have like these things. Like, I remember during the 60th anniversary, I was still working for the company then, and they started handing out like these, not handing them out. They had like raffles, and you had to enter the raffle. But to enter the raffle, you had to put in like a few bucks. And I'm like, that's not really fair. I'm like, if this is supposed to be about cast member appreciation, you shouldn't have to spend your own money to enter a raffle to win something. Really, what you won and what I won was one of those reusable bags that you get at the grocery store.
What?
Yeah,
No
one
way.
of those. I got one of those, and it has Mickey all over it and a few like images of rides here and there.
Oh my gosh.
And I got a 60th anniversary refrigerator magnet, which is
my god.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, it's one of those flat ones that you just like peel off of a huge paper. And and that was it. And I was like, really? Like, this is what I get? Like, oh, and I'll tell you another thing that they used to do that they don't really do anymore. If you got good write-ups, like other cast members noticed something good that you did, they would do something which now I think today they call them I guess I don't know what they call them, but okay. Back in my day, and I know that they don't call them this anymore, they were called high fives. And basically it was any one of the five things that you could do that was based on safety, courtesy, show, efficiency, or safety, or not safety, but anyway, I can't remember it. It's off the top of my head, but I can't remember too much of what it was. But I remember it was called a high five because there were five things that you could do right, and those in those five things was the four keys. And if you did something good, like I would get these tons of times. And what it was like, if I was, if I saw someone leave like a kitchen knife on the edge of a table and I'd move it to the center of the table, or like if someone else dropped, I don't know, like a bunch of chicken stock on the floor, I'd be the first one to clean it up for them. So I would get these little slips from cast members that I knew that would be like, oh, we noticed you doing something like taking an initiative or doing something that was based off of safety, courtesy, show, efficiency, or just being a cast member. And when you got those slips, you could keep a copy for yourself, and the other copy goes into a raffle box. And the raffle box would be checked like once a month, and it was checked like all over the resort, okay? They would look at all these things, and then you'd be put into a raffle to win a prize. And one of the things I got, and I still have it, I'm looking at it right now, it's a little box, a little mahogany box. So when you open it, inside is this like wood and brass magnifying glass, and the wood is engraved with Pirates of the Caribbean. It says, "Dead men tell no tales."
That's cool.
And it's a cool little magnifying glass, and it, oh my gosh, like if I would say its street value would be at least like $75.
Okay. Yeah.
And so so that was really cool. They no longer do that stuff anymore. Now it's more like, if like you still enter it in a raffle, but really what you get is like you might get like a pin, like a Walt Disney pin, that you know what those pins are, those pin trading things. Anyway, you'd get like a pin or something like that with Mickey Mouse or Pluto or sometimes Walt Disney, but that's about the maximum of what you get is a pin. You might get a writing pen or something like that. Nothing amazing. And so that's one of the other things that I felt like, oh, like why would Disney change this? Why would they, it felt so great to receive that magnifying glass. I mean, I never use it, but I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's worth something, and so, yeah, the company just doesn't care about that stuff anymore. And that's one of the depressing things that I've decided to put on your shoulders.
Oh boy. Yeah, it really just comes down to, like we said, just money, because I forgot to mention a couple things when it comes to Disney's money grabbing, and this one's kind of recent. The fact that you have to pay $95, I think it was $95, to attend the Disneyland After Dark thingamabob that's starting next year, which is kind of a throwback to the original days of Disneyland when you used to be able to stay late in the park. But $95 on top of the 300 plus that you have to pay to get into the park alone, and that's just really, I don't know.
Wow.
It's like unbelievable. And another one that I wanted to mention was the fact that you can't sit in the Liberty, that's not what it's called, in the Lily Bell on the train. And you have to, I think it's only accessible if you're taking the train tour guide thingamabob, but you still have to pay to be able to ride back there. And I remember on my last trip there, I was hoping, telling my family we have to sit there, but nope, we have to take a tour and pay a whole bunch of money to be able to sit back there. And I'm sure there's others that you guys can think of and that Alex can think of also, but those are just off the top of my head.
Yeah, I remember when, if you wanted to ride the Lily Bell, it was just a matter of asking politely,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they would wait until there was like they would put you in with a group of people who also asked, and then they would wait till the Lily Bell was empty to put you in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great experience. Like, I'm one of those Disney people that doesn't believe in like locking certain amenities of the park away to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, Club 33, it's one of those things that's kind of taking over now, because if you're a Club 33 member, you can ride the Lily Bell.
Oh,
But
I didn't know that.
yeah, that's another thing. Like, if you're a Club 33 member, you could ride the Lily Bell, or if you take that special tour about the Disneyland Railroad, then you get a ride on the Lily Bell. I don't believe in locking away certain Disney amenities, you know, just so that way Disney can make more money off of it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
another example is the Court of Angels in New Orleans Square. That was a little courtyard within New Orleans Square that you could walk into, just, you know, just when you're wandering around New Orleans Square, you could walk in there. There's a beautiful staircase and a little fountain, and it's just a nice little quiet getaway in the middle of busy New Orleans Square.
Mm-hmm.
And then Disney goes and they're like, well, now it's going to become the new reception area for Club 33. So now nobody, unless you're Club 33, can go into the Court of Angels. And Walt Disney was one of the people that didn't believe in locking away certain parts of Disneyland just for special events or special people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he believed that anything that was on ground level and was accessible to guests, like they could walk up to it, was something that they should be allowed to see. You know, Club 33 was above, you know, the second floor of New Orleans Square.
Mm-hmm.
It was away from the regular park, and it didn't take away from the average guest experience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But removing the Court of Angels and making it part of only Club 33 is taking away from the guests,
Yeah.
because that was something they used to be able to do that they can't do anymore. The Lily Bell is one of those things that I'm like, you know, everybody should be allowed to see it, because, you know, they otherwise it's not used at all in the day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like, what's the point in having the Lily Bell on the railroad and running around the rails if no one can really appreciate it except for people on that special tour?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, so I'm all for making Disneyland more accessible to people. And the Lily Bell is one of those things that just is my pet peeve. I'm like, they should let everybody there.
Yeah, I'm really sad I didn't get to experience it in the past. Well, you didn't have to pay to get on it. But yeah, like I said, everything that we're talking about really comes down to just money grabbing. And I remember watching a YouTube video a while back. I don't really remember who it was by, but it was talking about how Michael Eisner was the one who decided to raise the prices of the admission tickets because he found out that guests would still pay however much money they raised it by to get into the parks, because it's just a once in a lifetime experience. Of course you're going to pay $300-$400 to go into Disneyland or to Disney World, and yeah, so it's really all Michael Eisner's fault. That's just what I'm trying to get at. But anyways, did you have any other things that you wanted to talk about?
Let me see. Um, oh, okay. Okay, there's one more thing. All right. So it's the special viewing for the shows that you get when you like buy a meal or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I really hate that, because the meal usually that you buy, like, I mean, sometimes used to, I don't know if they still do it, but you could like buy food at Blue Bayou, and then you get special viewing for the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they would reserve this huge area for guests to see the show, And I'm just like, come on, it should be about first come, first serve, not like, people who has to buy something in order to get a special viewing. I mean, I remember World of Color had these picnic meals,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I don't know if they still do them anymore, but I got a picnic meal because I'm like, oh, this will get special viewing of the show, and really the viewing wasn't all that great in my opinion. Like really, the best viewing of the be- the best viewing of World of Color is actually the farther away you are, the better you get to see the whole show. Because if you're close up, you can't really see the show all that well. Um, anyway, and this picnic meal, I chose fried chicken. I'm like, okay, I paid like $30 for this picnic meal, right? And I'm like, all right, fried chicken. And then they hand it to me and it's refrigerated. It's cold.
Oh.
I'm
Oh
like, if I'm
boy.
paying $30 for fried chicken, it better be hot. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? Like, I was so mad. And I was just like, I get that it's a picnic meal, but it cost a whole lot of money and I got this mediocre view of the show. And same thing goes for Phantasmic. Like you get okay, like with Phantasmic you get a better viewing of the show from where their special viewing is, but it's just not worth the money, for the meal and all that. Like it cost a lot of money and anyway, that's one of my little pet peeves is the special viewing and all that.
Yeah, I remember on my last trip to the parks, my parents asked me if we should do one of those special viewing things that comes with the dinner, and I was like, no, no, thanks. We could just get cheaper food somewhere else in the park and camp out however long it takes. And yeah, I agree with what you said. And another thing that I forgot to mention in the must-do things at Disneyland is now not all families are going to be up to this, but pin trading. I'm a big fan of buying pins and not necessarily trading them. I like to keep them and look at them, but I wouldn't want to give away all my valuable pins for some other ones. But yeah, pin trading I feel like is kind of if you have that extra cash, you want to buy a couple pins here and there, or if you want to buy the starter packs, those are like, I think they're $5 or $10. They're not that cheap, but yeah, you can walk around, find some cast members, and there are also some really, 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 really awesome pins out there. Like I'm sitting in front of two of my favorites that I got on my last trip. There's one that's, I guess it's like copper, I don't know, and it opens up and it has a picture of Walt Disney and it says it's kind of fun to do the impossible, and it's signed his name, and on the cover is a engraving of Sleeping Beauty's castle. And then another one I have here is part of the Disney Parks collection, and it's like a bluish gold, and it's like has all this glitter in it, and it's the Disneyland logo with the castle, and it's just really, I don't know, it's not really for everybody, but for me, it's really part of the experience, like finding a new favorite pin that I can buy and take home and show all my friends and, hang up somewhere in my truck or just on my backpack. I don't know. It's just really awesome for me.
Yeah, going off of what you were saying about pin trading, I actually have a collection of pins.
Oh, okay.
I never take them to Disneyland because all of them are like either rare or valuable, and I would not trade them for anything in the world. So I don't do pin trading. It doesn't. I don't know. I'm not a pin trader, but I do sometimes buy rare pins just because I think they look so cool. My favorites are Walt Disney pins.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are the best. And kind of a funny story. I have this pin here by Justin Scard. I don't know if you guys watch his YouTube videos. It's a Random Land pin, and while I was getting off the shuttle to our hotel, I had this pin on my backpack, and somehow it came off, fell in between the seats of the shuttle, and I was like, oh my gosh, where is my pin? I paid a lot of money for this. One of my favorite YouTubers made this pin, and I bought it, and I'm just asking the driver if he can somehow pull the seat back and get it for me, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I got the pin, and I still have it. It's really not really a funny story, but I don't even know why. I don't know why I brought that up.
Why'd you bring that up? That's a good story.
Yeah, now I don't put any pins on my backpack. I just wear them on my lanyard. But sometimes those lanyards can get heavy if you have a lot of pins. So I'm trying to find a new way to carry my pins around to show everybody that I like collecting pins. So I'll figure that out eventually. Well, I think that just about does it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we want to hear your thoughts on the new Star Tours changes. We want to know what your must-do things at Disneyland is, whether that be rides, experiences, or just meeting the characters, or anything else. And we want to know. I need to shorten this title. We want to know what made you start to feel not so great about Disney as you used to. So comment down below your guys' ideas on that. And Alex, why don't you go ahead and tell the lovely listeners how they can support you?
Sure. If you'd like to support me and send me some money, you can do that through the Venmo app that you get on your phone. It's a free app, and it's used for sending or transferring money to people. So my sister and I use it to sometimes send $20 to each other here and there. And it's called Venmo, Venmo. And basically you just sign up, and then you look for my username, which is at @AYAlexander, and then you create a transfer request to transfer as much money as you'd like to transfer to me. A lot of money, please. And and so that's how you can do that.
Yeah, guys, I'll have the link to that down in the description, and I'll have his username and everything down there also. And you guys can support me on Patreon or buy my t-shirts. Yeah. Oh gosh, excuse me. I just burped. Oh boy. You guys can also follow me on Twitter if you'd like. I post a lot of updates regarding videos and just my opinions on certain things, Disneyland, not always Disney based, but if you guys want to, you can follow me on Twitter. And that's gonna do it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.